Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to talk about a horror mystery movie called Devil's Pass. It's also known as Dyatlov Pass and is based on a true story that will blow your mind. So, back in 1959, there were 9 adventurers from Russia who went on an expedition to the Dyatlov Pass in the Ural Mountains. Unfortunately, they got stuck there and something really mysterious and tragic happened to them. Their internal organs were damaged, their bones were broken, but there were no visible wounds or injuries on their bodies. It's pretty strange, right? According to reports, these adventurers were actually trying to escape from their camp and go outside. And guess what? They were wearing normal clothes. The jackets and warm woolen clothes that were perfect for the freezing weather were not on their bodies. Can you imagine? It's a total puzzle. But here's the shocking part: Russia decided to hide this incident and close the case. This hiding act was an evidence that something is beyond human imagination on those mountains. Now, let's dive into the movie. It starts with 5 students from Oregon University who are determined to solve the Dyatlov Pass mystery. Their names are Holly, Jensen, Andy, JP, and Dennis. They head out to explore that area and they record everything they see. Oh, and keep an eye on Holly's neck because there's a tattoo there that will be important later in the story. Don't forget. So, these brave students go to Russia, and suddenly, in the next scene, they disappear, just like the 9 people back in 1959. It's a big shock. When experts are asked about what might have happened, they have different theories. Few people think they got lost in a snowstorm, while others suggest the involvement of aliens. But you know what the locals believe? They think that place is a doorway to the spirit world, and those students might have entered that world. That sounds weird. But before we continue with the story, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Okay, now let's get back to it. A news channel reveals that the Russian government has a video related to this incident, but they're not showing it to the public. Somehow, that video leaked and goes viral, and in it, we see Holly crying in fear while Jensen tries to comfort her. After that intense moment, the movie takes us back in time for a month, where we see these people arriving in Russia and visiting a city. There, they wanted to meet a man named Peter Kropp, who was the only survivor from the Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959. Unfortunately, he had to turn back because he fell ill along the way. But when he heard about the deaths of his 9 friends, he became mentally disturbed. These 5 students go to the hospital for an interview where Peter Kropp is being kept for years, but the doctors won't let them in. The doctors act strangely towards them. Finally, one doctor informs them that Peter Kropp has passed away. However, they notice an old man on the window showing something written in Russian language. 2 people then controlled the old man, and now it's revealed that he was Peter Kropp himself. They meet a man named Sergei, who explains that the sign means stay away and indicates danger. Sergei takes them to his aunt, who was part of the rescue team in 1959. They interview Sergei's aunt, who shares that when they arrived, they discovered not 9, but 11 dead bodies. However, the Russian government only revealed information about 9 bodies, and the last 2 were found months later. Sergei's aunt warns them that the place is very dangerous, urging them to be cautious. Sergei then leads them to Ural Mountains and leaves. They begin climbing. Despite bad weather and darkness, after a long trek they set up their tents and eat, and oddly they were cheerful in such a risky situation. They also hear strange voices around them. The next morning, they wake up to find large footprints circling their tent, starting from a specific point in the snow. It's strange because footprints don't usually appear from one specific spot and ends without trail. They follow the footprints, but they suddenly vanish after a short distance. This scares them, but they gather their courage and keep moving forward. After walking a little more, they hear the peculiar voices again. They spot the large footprints once more and follow them until they reach a closed weather tower. Inside, they discover a severed tongue, which terrifies everyone. However, Holly and Jensen manage to convince the others to continue on somehow. During this time, we learn from Holly and Jensen's conversation that they have always dreamt of being in this place since childhood. When they finally discovered the truth about this place, they developed a strong desire to come here. Suddenly, we see 2 creatures in the scene but group did not notice. Risking their lived in harsh weather once again, they start walking, and eventually reach the exact spot where 1959 incident took place. They set up their tents there and begin filming their documentary. Suddenly, all their GPS devices and compasses malfunctioned. Andy realizes that they reached this place much earlier than expected, about 4 to 5 hours ago, which is quite strange. This revelation scares everyone. Andy and Dennis suggest leaving, but it's already night, so they decide to stay there. Later, while exploring the area, Holly and Jensen discover the presence of radiation. While exploring the radiation, they find a door beneath the snow. The door is designed in a way that it can only be closed from the outside, not from within. Holly and Jensen try to open the door, but it's jammed due to the snow. They return to their tents without telling anyone about the door. Everyone falls asleep, and they wake up to the sound of a storm, and that too in 6 a.m. They try to escape the storm, but Dennis stuck in and dies, and Andy injures her leg. They realize that it wasn't a natural storm, it was artificially created. They suspect that the army is behind these attacks to kill them. Holly informs JP about the door, but JP gets angry at them for not telling earlier. They then shoot flares into the sky, hoping that the light will attract someone to help them. After a little while of shooting flares, 2 people suddenly appear in front of them, coming from the same direction from where they came. Seeing them, these people wonder how they managed to arrive so quickly, considering the time it took for them to reach there. Andy immediately tells everyone to run because those people could be Russian soldiers. Group tried to grab Andy, but Andy can't stand up at all. So Andy tells them to run, and Holly, JP, and Jensen sprint towards the door. The 2 soldiers start shooting, hitting Andy and causing her death. JP also gets shot and gets injured. Somehow, they manage to open the door and go inside. The soldiers follow them, knowing they are trapped inside, with no one coming to help. Then, they see 2 tunnels ahead. They enter the right tunnel without noticing that a weird creature is lurking in the left tunnel. The right tunnel is extremely dark, making it impossible to see anything. Holly starts getting a sense that someone else is there with them. They come across a lab where they discover some papers belonging to Russian soldiers. They find a photo of an American ship that was used for a teleportation experiment. The experiment aimed to send a person to a different place, but it ended up being extremely dangerous, so they had to stop it. They find more photos that the Russian army could kill to keep hidden. That's why the soldiers were attacking them. It means that experiments were also carried out in this lab. Then they find JP, who is unable to move. JP instructs Jensen and Holly to keep going and find a way out. As they continue forward, they encounter many dead soldiers along the way, and they stumble upon a deceased soldier whose tongue is missing. This suggests that the mutilated tongue in the weather tower probably belonged to this soldier. They see bullet marks also and a meat hook hanging there. Then, Jensen finds a camera that looks exactly like his camera. It was Jensen's camera, and it had their recent recordings. But Jensen couldn't understand how that camera ended up there. Just then, they hear JP screaming. When they reach JP, they see 2 strange creatures attacking and devouring him. Then these monsters also attack Holly and Jensen. When Holly tries to fight back, they suddenly disappear and reappear somewhere else. It means they had teleportation powers. The creatures attack them again, and Holly and Jensen run towards a tunnel. In the tunnel, they find a door and rush inside. The place where Holly and Jensen arrive is quite strange. They realize it's a time portal. They sit there, not knowing what to do. If they go back, the monsters will kill them, and they have no idea what will happen if they go through the portal. They sit together and start recording a video. It was the same video that Russian government had been hiding, and it later went viral. After that, they decide to leave through the portal. They hold each other's hands and begin walking. In the next scene, we see them falling outside the time portal, and they see a boy and a girl approaching them. But then, Russian soldiers come and chase them away, and we can see they have retro rifles. We see soldiers taking Holly and Jensen back inside the bunker and stripping off their clothes. The soldier laughs when he sees their clothes because they look fancy compared to the time they are in. The soldier hangs them on the same meat hook. This reveals that the two strange monsters were none other than Holly and Jensen themselves, because the tattoo on Holly's neck is exactly the same as the one on the creature. And that's where the movie ends. Actually, Holly and Jensen traveled through a time portal and ended up in 1959 when the real incident took place. The boy and girl who were approaching them were actually Sergei's dad and aunt. Sergei's aunt mentioned that she saw not 9, but 11 bodies there, indicating that the other 2 bodies belonged to Holly and Jensen. The lab was later closed down because Holly and Jensen had turned into dangerous creatures. However, we don't know what happened to the remaining 9 people involved in the incident, or why Russia closed the case. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the explanation, please subscribe to the channel and hit bell icon.